Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something.
Hi there, welcome to another episode of MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next, and if you're not too careful, you just might learn something. So today, on the Old Blue project, and one of the things we were working on, you saw in the last videos where I put the passenger side floor pan in, and we're getting ready to do the driver's side, but I kind of segued off. That's a neat thing about a project like this. You can, just to keep it interesting, if you want to jump off onto something else and work on it and then set it aside, and you can do it. So it's no big deal. There's no rules there. So what I'm working on here is the radiator cooling fan. Is remember the Ford 6-cylinder just has a regular old fan bolted hard solid to the water pump. And that thing probably saps about 10 or 15 horsepower off the motor, but we're going to convert it over to an electric fan. And to do that, there's a couple ways you can go about it. They give you these little zip tie things that you can attach the fan directly to the radiator, and it just kind of hangs off the radiator. But I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to make a shroud and kind of encapsulate the back side of the radiator here. And we're going to have our AC condenser on the front too now, because we're adding air conditioning. So we may add an additional fan on there for that, depending if this one doesn't provide enough airflow. So you've seen it on all your new cars now. They'll have a main radiator fan, and then they'll have a little booster fan for the AC condenser. But anyway, let me show you what I got. So what we have here basically is a Hayden universal electric fan, and then taking some sheet metal and some aluminum angle, using our sheet metal bender over there, we bent this up to make it work and fit on the radiator here. So most of this radiator in particular is set up to where it will accept a fan shroud. So they have these little spring clips, okay, that your fan shroud will seat down into, and that holds everything in place down at the bottom. Makes serviceability a lot easier too, because you're not having to crawl under there and take 2 bolts out if you ever have to pull the shroud out. So we have that, and then at the top we went ahead, and now in this case we're not going to use this radiator support. Unfortunately, this radiator support is damaged beyond repair, and for the cost of a new one, it's worth buying rather than investing the time and money into fixing this one. But this one is a great model to use for mocking everything up and making sure everything fits right. So that's why I have my radiator installed here. And then what we'll use is to hold it across the top. Now I've only drilled 1 hole here just for illustrative purposes, but there'll be about 5 or 6 across the top here to use what are called U-nuts. And that's these little fellas right here. And you've probably seen them if you've ever installed your own aftermarket stereo. You might see little tiny ones like these that come with the speakers. And then I have some stainless steel sheet metal screws. And what this does is this just kind of slides over the outer edge of the metal, and then you've got your hole right there, and your screw goes down through there and catches on the other side of that U-nut, and that's what you screw it into. I rather like using U-nuts because if you just drill a hole and use a sheet metal screw, those things could kind of loosen up over time. So, and we take our assembly and we seat it down into those little clips at the bottom and give her a push. And we'll get our screw here. And find my hole here. Now I'll have some kind of, you know, cutesy little trim washer or something set up for that. But for right now, that'll just hold it in place so it doesn't fall. And that'll be our radiator fan. And I'll have, I haven't put them in yet, but there'll be some foam strips along the side here. And that'll make sure that this fan is just sucking all its air through the radiator and not in from the sides and that sort of thing. So, and then we also have our control module that's going to control this, which has a sensor and a relay, and it's adjustable. And we don't want this thing running all the time, so we'll set it to come on at the temperature that the thermostat opens. So as soon as the thermostat opens and starts pumping hot water in here into the top of this radiator, at that point is when the fan will turn on. And then when it cools down below a certain point, then it shuts off. And the module also has a secondary input for air conditioning. So when you turn your air conditioning on, then it also will turn the fan on as well, independently of the engine temperature, engine coolant temperature. So I'm kind of proud of this. This is my first foray into sheet metal fabrication, to be honest with you. As many of you know, I built the UTV out of an old Pontiac Fiero, and I built the frame and everything for that. But that's all more like C-channel and box tubing and stuff like that. Pretty rudimentary stuff. This, you know, you kind of actually want it to look good. So I'm kind of proud of it. So I'm going to affix my signature. So Restomod by MacGyver's Workshop. So when anyone lifts the hood on this puppy, and they go in there and they go, wow, that is really cool. Who did that? They'll know that MacGyver's Workshop is the one that did it. And there we go. All right. So that takes care of that. And I'm really kind of excited. I want to show you something else too that we've got. You know, one of the goals for this truck is, obviously, the primary goal of the owner is, it was her daddy's truck, a lot of memories, a lot of sentimental stuff tied up into this thing. So we're going to get it looking back to the way it did, you know, as she remembered it before it kind of, you know, deteriorated away. However, you know, an 82 Ford F-150 with a 306 cylinder, you know, maybe made 90, 100 horsepower, and its only saving grace was that straight six had enough torque, you know, to get you where you're going. And that's fine. And we're not gonna, you know, make a drag car out of this or anything, but we are gonna zoot it up just a little bit. And we wanted also to get good fuel economy. So it's already got a 3.0 gear in it, which is a highway gear. And I'm putting a camshaft, roller rockers and all that kind of stuff in there, and 4-barrel carburetor and intake, and you know, that'll take care of the horsepower end of it. But we want to be able to utilize that horsepower more efficiently so that, you know, you don't feel the need to constantly have your foot in it all the time, which is, of course, going to kill your gas mileage. So in the drag racing world, you know, they hunt for tenths is the saying. And now what that means is that, you know, every little thing that you can do adds up in the big picture. So one of the things we're going to do is we're converting all that lighting on this truck to LED. And it had the base model 65 amp alternator, which isn't a whole lot, and that's fine. We're going to leave it that way, and because it doesn't take a lot of power to turn. But we don't want it cranking out 65 amps the whole time the engine's running, because of all the lights and everything that's, you know, and other electrical loads that are dragging down on the engine. You know, and each and every one of these little things all add up to your fuel economy. So we've got you know, of course, LED tail lights and everything. They weren't too difficult to find, but the LED headlights were a little bit more of a challenge, because most of them, you know, they look all goofy, you know, for like these, you know, they look like some bug-eyed alien or something like that. And we wanted them to look normal, like just a regular sealed beam headlamp. So let me show you what I got. So on the left side here, you have your traditional regular incandescent sealed beam. Roger had said, he says, when you put this thing back together, he says, take a look at that passenger side headlight. It seemed to be a little dimmer than the driver's side. Well, the reason for that is that this one is just a straight incandescent sealed beam headlight, like you would have had in 1975, okay? Then over here, this one is a sealed beam, but it's a halogen, and they put a gas in the bulb, and the filament burns brighter, burns hotter, and for the same amount of power, it puts out more light. And it's also a different color light. It's a brighter, whiter light, whereas this is more of a muted, warm white, almost yellowy kind of light. So, anywho, again, these are, you know, your old school, you know, what they call sealed beam. And, you know, you go to the parts store and buy a headlight, this is what you got. It's not any of the fancy aero stuff that they have now. The Department of Transportation had them all standardized. You either had, you know, round headlights or square headlights, and they all had to fit within certain parameters. So, of course, now it's all different, but back in the day, this is what you had. So, what I managed to find was Hella, which is a European company. They're mostly known for like off-roading lights and fog lights and driving lights and stuff like that. But they also make a sealed beam replacement lamp, glass, not cheap plastic. That was the other thing that I was concerned about. If I put a retrofit LED light in there, you know, every car you see on the road now, once they get a few years on them, you know, the plastic on the headlight lens gets all glazed up and foggy and everything. Well, glass isn't going to do that. So that was the main criteria. And then this housing, okay, has an H4 replaceable bulb in the back. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take that H4 halogen bulb out of there, which probably draws about 10 amps off the alternator, and we're going to put a GTR Ultra 2 LED driver in here. Every bit is brighter than the halogen, and you know, it's going to look normal. See, that looks like a regular, what you expect to see on a regular headlight. And you know, if you look at that in comparison to the standard sealed beam over there. You know, it's not going to look like some goofy bug-eyed monster coming down the road or anything like that. Which, hey, for the kids and, you know, your four-wheel drive trucks and all that kind of stuff, you know, you want that futuristic, you know, look and all techie and everything. That's cool. But the goal with this is to keep it looking as it were. And it's a nostalgia thing for the owner, you know. You know, when she looks out the window in the morning and sees this truck sitting out in the driveway, you know, she's gonna think of her daddy. And, you know, I don't want some crazy, you know, techie looking thing sitting out there that looks nothing like what the truck did originally. So that's where we're going with that. And furthermore, this truck also, I don't have them yet because I haven't come in. It's taken me a year and about 3 months to find them. On the front bumper, there were two fog lights, driving lights, whatever you want to call it. Technically a fog light's yellow, but these were white, they were driving lights. And the ones that came, that were on the truck, were all busted and destroyed and everything, and I couldn't save them. And I wanted to find something similar. So again, the look, you know, all these little things add up. And I actually did find a pair used online. And like I said, it took me about a year, a little over a year to do it, but I found them. And of course, we'll put LED drivers in those too. So, you know, each one of those uses like less than half the current of the, you know, their halogen counterpart. So that's going to be less load on the alternator, less work the engine has to do to turn the alternator, and hopefully better fuel economy. And we'll see. I'm not sure if I can pull it off yet, but what I really want to do is I want to take that motor down to Nashville and stick it on a dyno when we get it all done, and kind of baseline it and see what it does. We know what the factory engine does, so I'd be interested to see what our engine does with the modifications we made, and the different camshaft, and we're also putting bigger valves in it, bigger exhaust valves, bigger intake valves. And for you guys at Ford 6 Performance, yes, I know I said that I wasn't gonna go with the, you know, the 094 or the 1094 intake valves, but you know, you guys have been doing this for a long time, and there's lots of guys out there who have done it. So I made a compromise, and I'm going up to a 1084 exhaust valve. We're going to take a Chevy small block intake valve and turn it down to 1084 from 1094. And number one, that's going to give us a little more meat, you know, in the head for durability's sake. You know, you go hogging this thing out, putting a huge valve in there, then all the metal around it starts getting thin, and you have the potential for problems. Okay. Now, obviously, you guys in Ford 6 have been doing this all along, and you haven't had any trouble. Great, but you know, I'm going to feed my OCD and just you know, step back about a little tiny bit and make that valve just a teeny bit smaller, and then we're going to polish the intake runners and clean the intake runners up, and you know, we should have a much better flowing head than what's stock. So, and then we'll see. We're gonna hang it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. If I can get it worked out, we're gonna hang that thing on a dyno and see what it does. You know, we're not talking, you know, David Freiberger and Hot Rod and Garage and all that kind of stuff, you know, looking for 500-600 horsepower. No, our expectations are going to be realistic, but what we're looking for is whatever horsepower we get, whatever that's going to be. Hopefully it's better than 100. And we're looking mostly for a broad, flat torque curve that goes just off of idle, 3,500, 4,000, that's the usable range for this street driven truck every day of the week. So we'll see what happens on that. If you heard me talking about Dynamat, we're going to put Dynamat in the cab, and what that's going to do is make it a little less tinny and make it a lot quieter inside when you're driving. So what we got here is it's a product name. It's called Dynamat, but what it basically is a sound deadening material. Dynamat's pretty much the gold standard in the industry. There's other stuff out there, but nothing's really come along yet that's as good and as quiet as Dynamat. So unfortunately they're priced accordingly, but it is what it is. Everything else out there, you can get some stuff that's a little cheaper, but according to the reviews and the testing, I haven't tested it myself, but they say it's not as good. So I want this truck to be as comfortable as possible for her when she's driving it around. So we're going to go with the best we can get. But what this is essentially is just a kind of like an asphalt based material, real sticky, and sticks down to the floor. Then it also has a thick foil heat barrier on it, so your road heat and all that doesn't come up through the floor, which helps make the air conditioner a little more efficient as well. Now they tout this as, you put this in your car and it makes your car stereo sound better. And yes, that's true. Because once you eliminate a lot of the other road noises and resonances and things like that, yes, it's going to take, it's going to make your radio sound louder than it would normally. And the cab of that F-150 is kind of like a tin can, really, as it is, and as it comes from the factory, especially in base trim. You get into like the XLT and the Lariat and all that, and they have a little more sound deadening that they put in from the factory. But even still, you're driving a truck, and really nowadays that's not the case anymore. You buy a truck and you're just getting into a car that can haul stuff. And while I do want to keep the spirit of this original truck in as much as I can, also want to make it comfortable. If she wants to get in and take it to work one day, she drives like sometimes a couple hundred miles where she's traveling to one of her other work sites and stuff. So I want to make it comfortable, and this is just one way we're going to help do that. And then of course they have this tape, this foil tape that you use to kind of seal the seams up and keep that radiant heat barrier contiguous. So looking forward to putting this stuff in. When you put it in, you use a roller and you roll it down and fit in all the contours and everything. And then that way you don't have any lumpy carpet or anything like that. So anywho, that's going to be it for today. It's just a bit of a short video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon so you'll be notified next time we put a video up. And stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next time.